All right, so we are live. I was just thinking, I haven't done a live thing in a while, so why not do a little thing? So what I did the other day is I bought this big box of stuff here. This is what I think is a Model 2 Sega Genesis that I got on eBay recently. And inside of it is, make sure all the labels are off of this thing here. Inside of it is a Sega Model 2, and it also has a 32X and a Sega CD, because I wanted to get the Sega CD in anticipation of the brand new Mega thing that's coming out from Analogue. So that's why I did this. So let's take a look. So here's the box. There's a bunch of stuff in the box. I have not taken everything out of the box, and it arrived like a week ago. And everybody's sleeping upstairs, so I figured, you know what, I'm going to sneak down here and do a live stream. So I see 18 of you are here already. So we're going to begin with the first item in the box, which is, let's see, so I got Power Monger. This came in through eBay, by the way. It's a little bit scratched up there. And what I figured I would do is I would go through my collection of stuff and see what I could run on this thing if it does work. And my wife, when we got married, when she showed up with all her stuff to move in, happened to have a Sega CDX, which was awesome, and she had a couple of games, and this was one of them. And I thought it was the Lynx game, but as it turns out, it was Sewer Shark. How about that? You can't beat Sewer Shark. That was the pack-in on the original, I think it was on the original Sega CD, but definitely the second edition of the Sega CD. And we have some chatters already, so Junior Sanchez says, "This is my Saturday night. This is what's cool about my Saturday night." So my birthday's tomorrow, actually. I turned 42. So at this age, this is fun to just not go anywhere and just sit in my basement and unpack stuff. So looks like also in the bag here is Doom. So that's cool. We've got the original 3-button controller. Hopefully this one works better than mine. Looks like it's been playing a few games. The red marks, or the red, actually maybe this controller didn't have the red on the buttons. I think I don't have a controller back there, do I? No, mine must be upstairs. Mine had red stuff on there. So the Sega Genesis back there, that still works. That is my original from 1989. Maybe we'll have a big 30th birthday thing for it next year. We'll be able to turn it on. So now, when you are dealing with the Tower of Power, there are cables up the wazoo. So this is a composite cable. This cable connects the Sega Genesis to the 32X. You can't lose this. It's harder. It's not as hard to find anymore, but it was hard for a while. And then you've got multiple power adapters. So, and it looks like I might be missing one. I'm not sure what they plan to do with this one here. I'll have to keep an eye on what they have here. So this one is for, I think, the Sega Genesis. And this one is probably for the Sega CD. I got to make sure I get all the right power adapters connected here. There's another composite cable here in the box. At one time, I'm pretty sure I had an S-Video cable for my Sega Genesis, but I am never going to find it in this house right now. So I think we'll just go with composite. Now what I have on the desk is something I got recently. This is called the Retro, what is this thing called? The Retro Tink. And it is a line doubler, so when you plug in composite, it just kind of shoots out 480 to your television. So we'll try that. If that doesn't work, I've got a scaler we'll try, but I'm trying to get minimal latency when I hook this thing up just to try it out. I'm not sure how long I'm going to live stream for, because I'm a little tired, but I figured let's get this thing unboxed and play with it and see what we end up with here. So let me see what else I can pull out of here. All right, here's the next thing. The seller here packaged up everything pretty nicely. So what do we have here? This is the 32X. Now I have a 32X already, but I figured, you know what? It wouldn't hurt to get another one. And the reason is that my 32X that I bought back in the day, here's what it looks like. My 32X that I bought back in the day was not working correctly because it was putting in like some video noise. It's been doing it since I got it back in '97. And I bought it back in '97 because the price was reduced to like $30. It was cheaper than buying a game at the time. So I bought the 32X and I picked up a bunch of games. So when I bought it initially back in '97 or so, I got Virtual Racer here, I got Star Wars Arcade and Space Harrier. I think those games are they back there? Yeah, they're on my shelf there, so I can grab those in a minute. And then this is funny, I got Colibri shortly thereafter, and what happened with this game, I remember this specifically, we went to visit my grandparents in Florida, and there was a mall that was having some trouble, and the stores were leaving. So one of the stores that was leaving was what became EB Games. It was Electronics Boutique, and they were just going out of business, the store. And so I was in the checkout line getting something else, and some kid returns this, and the guy at the counter just threw this in my bag. He's like, yeah, just take it. I don't want to deal with it. So I got Colibri for free back in '97 because you couldn't give away the 32X games back then apparently. So it's a pretty cool game. It's actually one of the more unique ones. Let me take some questions here on the chat. Swag Boy says, every time I look something up on YouTube, my channel pops up, and he watches that and casts out the other videos. Thank you very much. Stephanie owned a 32X for 1 day and returned it, and it was $30 when she got it. Yeah, I held on to mine. Actually has some redeeming values. The games weren't bad. You know what was nice about it was that, because I was a big Afterburner fan when I was a kid, and the Afterburner on 32X was fairly close to the arcade. I really thought there was some value to the 32X, but it was just too clunky in implementation, and I certainly wasn't going to pay whatever they were charging at the time. I think when the 32X came out, it was like $150, which to me felt like a lot to pay there. So let's see. Patrick Wolsham bought his at Blockbuster for $30 also. See, it looks like everybody kind of got their 32X around that point there. Thank you, Brian Parker, for your membership. Hope you're doing well this evening up in wherever you are. I know where you live. You can come visit me. You should come over one day. We'll play video games and stream it. Let's see. Charles wants to know if I have Sonic. I do have Sonic. One of my other devices here, I have a flash cartridge that has a bunch of stuff on it. And I think I've got the whole library of US games on a 4 GB SD card. I haven't booted this cartridge up in a while, so I gotta do that. Let's see. And somebody was asking about the Mega SG, whatever they call it. That's coming out in April. But I figured, you know what, I'm going to get the Sega CD now because when that thing comes out, everybody's going to want one and the value is going to go through the roof. So that was that. So I got some more plastic here. Let's keep digging through here. Some paper. So make sure you didn't bundle anything else inside of the paper here as I'm going. And more paper. This is good though because, as you know, I ship out a lot of stuff, so it's always good to have packing material, especially this stuff. The bubble wrap costs a fortune. You want to save this stuff whenever you get it. All right, here is the business end of this. So we've got a Model 2 Sega Genesis here, and we've got the Sega CD. It looks a little beat up, but I was expecting that. A little dusty, perhaps. I think this model is actually a little more reliable than the other ones that were out there. So that was that. So it looks like he's got like an aftermarket power supply. I bought this on eBay, by the way. He's got an aftermarket power supply here. So I got to make sure I plug it into the right thing. And perhaps somebody can go out on, okay, so this takes in 10 volts. And that power adapter was 9 volts. So I'm going to look in the back of these things and see what we've got here. This is, because you got to get the voltage right on this stuff or otherwise it's kaboom. On the bottom of the Sega CD, 9 volts, 1.2 amps. So that aftermarket thing should probably work with the Sega CD. The Sega Genesis takes 10 volts. Okay, so the 9-volt adapter here is going to be on the Sega CD unit. The rest of them are going to take 10 volts. So if we look at this power adapter, this is 10 volts. So I think I might use this one for the 32X. I did at one point have a 32X Sega CD disc. I forgot which game it was, but there was a few of those out there. And I could probably find one that we could burn or something if we really want to go that far tonight. Let's see. Can the EverDrive? The EverDrive can do 32X games. In fact, the EverDrive can also do Sega Master System games too. That's what's really cool about it. It's very flexible. All right. So if I remember correctly, the 10 So I think maybe we'll start with the Genesis. Let's get this hooked up first, make sure the Genesis portion works, and then we'll kind of work our way through and see where we go. So the first step is going to be to see if this Tinker Plunk thing is going to work with my NDI hookup here. So let's get some cables out. So we're just going to go composite. This isn't going to look all that great. I need to get some RGB cables too, but I think with the Mega thing coming out, my intent here is just to get, I just wanted to get a working Sega CD unit so that when that thing comes out in April, we can hook everything up there. So that was my goal with that. So now I'm going to hook everything up to this Tinker Plunk here. And, oh, that's right, it goes this way. So again, this is not going to look great, but it will work, hopefully. All right, so we'll plug that stuff in there. Now I've got to connect the USB power for the Tinker Plunk. So let's do that. Will it reach? It will not. I need to get a USB cable up here, I think. Yeah, we got to get some power going here. So let me go find a longer USB cable. Stand by, everybody. Yes, and I think somebody was just commenting there about the Sega CD BIOS startup. Yeah, I love that. Love that music. It takes me right back to the good old days. So let me go and find a longer cable. So one of the problems that we have here, everybody, and I'm not going to show you how bad it is because this place is such a mess. It's been a crazy month and a half, and I'm just like finishing a project, and it's just going on the floor, and I've got to totally clean up this rat's nest. It's a horrible mess right now in here. I've been very careful about what I show the audience. I'm so embarrassed by how this office looks right now. All right, so let's plug this in here. All right, so the Tinker Plunk is connected. Next step is, and it looks like we got a black screen, so that's a good development there. Do I have, oh, you know what? Why don't we just do something really neat here? And we'll plug in one of my original games from 29 years ago. So this is Ghouls and Ghosts. And let's see what we get here. Yes, we should get a direct feed of this, but it's going to be composite. And I'm beginning to wonder if this cable is not going to work so great. It's got some electrical tape around it. It looks like they did a repair job on it. That's all right. I've got other controllers upstairs if we need them. So, all right. So we've got that hooked up there. Now let's see if the magic smoke comes out here. Oh, there we go. Okay. Let's see what we get. And I got a red power light, so that's a good sign. But I have no video. Oh, I got to put the cartridge in. Let's try this again. The cartridge didn't snap down all the way. All right. Let's see what we get now. Ah, we got something. All right, so now this Tinker Plunk thing, I've got to make an adjustment. There's a button here that I can push to get it into the right video mode. I forgot which button it is. There we go. And again, this is composite. It's just not going to look great, but it's not bad. So it appears as though this is working here. Yeah, I'm glad the Tinker Plunk thing has the output there. So yeah, it looks pretty good. You know what's neat about this? So I really want to get RGB cables now because just playing this right now, I can tell you like the lag is not, I'll have to measure it, of course, like I usually do, but it doesn't feel like there's much lag here. It's actually pretty responsive, even though it looks pretty crappy. And I'm wondering, too, it must be my video system that's stretching it out to, because it is, I think it is stretched a bit. So there's other buttons that I can push on here. I don't know what what did that button do? Let's see. That button did something, which wasn't good. Let's push it again. There we go, we're back. So this changes like what you select, as far as the inputs on it, and then it kind of goes from there. So the video's stretched, but actually, you know what? It's not stretched. It is my monitor that's stretching it. So that's what that is. Okay. Actually, it doesn't look too bad. Again, this is composite, so if I had an I can probably get the audio going too. That would be kind of fun. So let's go look at the audio. Yeah, so Eric Bazinga remembers my Apple IIgs that began smoking on Christmas. So it is around that time of the year, isn't it? So it could happen again. So let's go to my audio mixer here, and I think we're on input 5. And let's see if we get any audio. And I'm not listening to the audio, so you all have to tell me how it sounds. Maybe I can, yeah, let me mute my mic real quick and turn on my TV speaker. All right, I think that sounds, oops, let me get my, okay, so we've got audio here. That seems to be working. All right, cool. So that's step 1. I just wanted to make sure that part worked. So now we're going to get power to the Sega CD. And if I recall correctly, the 9 volt is what we're going to use for that. Let's see here. Let's get this hooked up real quick here. All right, so now we're going to connect the Sega CD. Now I'm trying to remember how this thing works. I think it just works when I turn it on without a cartridge on here. So let's see what happens with that. All right. Yep, there we go. Ah, I love that. I love that song. Let's let that. Oh, I was muted the whole time here. When that Mega thing, the Mega RG or whatever it is, comes out from Analogue, it's going to allow me to plug that brand new Analogue console with its FPGA into this. So that's pretty cool. All right, so now we are playing the pack-in game that I got with my Sega CD way back in the day. This was Sewer Shark. And I'm glad this works, actually. I'm very excited about this working. This is good. Broken Mummy wants to know if I have the Spot 7. I think I have every game ever made on this flash cartridge. We can check that out. So now here's the funny thing with this game. It's a horrible game because it's this full motion video stuff. And I think they were doing this on the Sega Genesis just because they could, right? It's just like, you know, we can do this full motion video thing now. It looks pretty cool to the average consumer that doesn't have access to a PC that had a CD-ROM at the time. Because you were spending, you know, if you wanted a CD-ROM on your computer, you were probably spending about, you know, $2,000 back then, $1,500 for a computer that could actually do this kind of stuff. So, and this was like kind of like one of these games where you see the arrow blinking there. You're supposed to push the arrow, push something down at the right time, in addition to shooting the monsters in the thing. All right, so there we go. So I think we're going to, there we switch directions there. And apparently I didn't do it fast enough because the red light is blinking, and then at some point here I'm going to die. Believe it or not, I have never actually gotten past the first like minute or two with this game because it was just so bad. And these full motion video games are almost all like that. The couple of exceptions were like Wing Commander 3 and a few others that used the video for the storytelling, but not the actual gameplay. And you can see just how muddy it looks here. It looks pretty much, actually it looks pretty good on what you're seeing. That Tinkerplunk thing's working pretty nicely, actually. But yeah, this was not video gaming's finest hour. The one strength of the Sega CD was the fact that you went from having these cartridges that fit maybe, you know, megabyte or so to having 650 megs and then CD audio to go with it too. So I think that was the untapped potential that never really was tapped. I think a few exceptions were like Sonic CD, which was a great Sonic the Hedgehog game, which made use of some of that storage space. And I saw something, I think it was one of these sites did it. It was pretty cool. Like they did an analysis of how much space was used. I think it was like 180 megs for the gameplay or something like that. So, yeah, you know what I just picked up for my Switch just because I thought it was just a fun novelty? Limited Run Games came up with Night Trap on cartridge. So I just bought it because I remembered Howard Phillips saying that he never would have that game appear on a Nintendo console. So that was why I got it. Now, I have you know, I am doing better in this game than I have ever done right now, talking to you all as I'm playing this here. So this is like a major accomplishment here for me. I usually die a lot sooner than this. Maybe this game was so bad back in the day that you can appreciate it now and play better because it is so bad, but it's just like one of these moments in history. So let's see how we do here. And if you're interested, you have to search on my channel, but I interviewed the CEO, the former CEO of Sega back in the day that the Genesis was at its height, Tom Kalinske. And if you go in my channel and do a search, you will see or hear that interview. And I interviewed another guy, Blake Harris, and he is the author of Console Wars, which is a book that kind of documented all of that stuff. Okay, here we go. Now we're dying, I think. Yep, there we go. So there is the end. I actually did pretty well here. I'm impressed with myself. All right, so that's good news. It looks like this Sega CD is working, so that's great. I might be able to burn a disc or two. We'll have to see how if I have time here. So, all right, so that's good. So I'm going to turn this off real quick because I just wanted to make sure that part works. So I'm going to make sure I don't touch the disc, let it finish spitting down. There was no break on the CD here when you popped up the thing there. Okay, there we go. Yeah, so this was the Sega CD that I had, and then I sold it stupidly. So now I have rebought it with the whole package here. So the next step is to fully enable this battle station, which is the Tower of Power. So now we have to take the Sega 32X and pop it in there. And the next step is we have to connect that cable that I talked about, the one you don't want to lose. And so we're going to connect that on the back here. So what you did is we're going to take the composite cable out of the Genesis. We're going to plug that into the AV out on the back of the 32X here, just so you can see where it goes. And then this pass-through cable is the AV in, because what happens is the Genesis will be overlaying some stuff. There's no bent pins on this. We'll be overlaying some stuff on the 32X. So the Genesis would still generate some graphics, and the 32X would do additional stuff. All right, so, and the big thing I'm looking for here is whether or not this output from this particular 32X is cleaner than the one I have, because my 32X is very, very dirty. You know, it's not dirty, it's just totally, well, it's just a dirty signal. So let's plug this into the back of the Genesis. And then we have to give it power. It needs its own power supply. Now, if you were to plug in like so it could stay on here all the time. And if you were to plug in a Sega 16-bit game right now, it should just pass through. Let's see. Oh, maybe it doesn't need power. Okay, I'm wrong. So it needed power all the time. So let's do that. Either that or it's broken, one or the other. If it doesn't work, it's not a big deal to me because I really came to this project to get myself a working Sega CD. So think about this. You've got 3 power bricks, 32X brick, Genesis brick, Sega CD brick. And now we're going to add that other brick to the mix here. And pop that sucker right in here. Okay. Let's get a 32X game in here. Let's do Virtua Racing. How's that sound, everybody? And all right, that's a good sign. Let's switch over to my other input here. The color doesn't look great here. And I think this might be the cable, because the cable looked like it might have had a damaged pin. So I'm going to stop this for a second here. And let's pull out this cable and look at it real quick. It didn't seem to go in very well, and I could have a damaged cable. The good news is I have another cable upstairs if this one is indeed broken. It looks okay on that one. Let's take a look over here. I'm missing a pin. We are definitely missing a pin. So I wonder if that, let's try this the other way here just to see for the heck of it. All right, let's give that a shot here. Yeah, we're definitely missing a pin here. No question. All right, so you know what I'm going to do here, folks? I'm going to run upstairs real quick and see if I can find my other cable. Now, the one thing that won't work with the new console, the Mega SG, is the 32X, but they are saying it's possible. So that is it. So here's what I'm going to do, folks. I'm going to go run upstairs real quick and try to find that other cable. And you can all chat amongst yourselves. And if anybody comes in wondering what's going on, you can tell them that we had to go find a cable. So I will be right back, and we'll continue this project. All right, this surprised me for a second. I actually had the cable pretty much in an easy to find place. I just pulled it right out of my old 32X that I haven't touched in a while. So let's get this connection redone here. Hope you all enjoyed your intermission. And we'll plug this guy in right here. All right. Okay. Let's turn this sucker on again here and see what happens. All right, it looks much better. I am seeing, oh, no, it doesn't look much better. Well, that just stinks. Let's see. It could be the Tinker Plunk introducing this. But that definitely does not look right. So my theory then is perhaps there's a pin stuck in that 32X itself. So let me pull this thing out here. Make sure I didn't damage my cable in the process. You know, it could very well be that there's a bad pin inside of this thing, so maybe I'll turn this over to one of my, I met some people from that Retro RGB on Smoke Monster's live stream the other day, so maybe they'll take a look at this one. But I have another one of these. This was not, this is, no, not good. I mean, it was represented that it was working in my eBay purchase, but it is a bum one here. But let me go upstairs and get my other 32X, and we'll see if it works any better. So hang on. All right. It looks the same, but it's different. So let's plug this one in real quick. And then I'm just glad the Sega CD portion worked. That was the mission here. So we got the Sega CD taken care of. So that was my primary objective. And this is my original Sega 32X, 20-something years old now. What I need to do is I do want to get some RGB cables for my Sega, because I got this Tinker Plunk thing here, and I really want to use it. But everything doesn't look great composite, as you all know, as you're seeing. So, all right, so let's get that power cable back in here. All right. Okay, here we go. Let's power this up again. And it's funny, I'm hearing, well, that looks even worse, but now it's a different color. How about that? So that leads me to think, what the heck? Actually, maybe that is the color. It's supposed to be, you all tell me, I think that might be the right color now. It looks kind of green though, doesn't it? We know how we can check this out. We can plug in, yeah, you know what? I think this looks kind of like the same color. So I wonder if it's the power supply? Because the Genesis itself has, you know, the color is fine on that. Here, you can take a look here on the... You all tell me, I'm not sure. Yeah, I think it is a little too much green. And you can see all that noise on the screen. That's my 32X has been this noisy since when I got it. And I think, you know, I had a bad one. I read somewhere that there was a bunch that did have this issue. I will say though that this Tinker Plunk thing, which is what I'm using to get the video fed to you, the latency feels very minimal on it. It's actually much better than my scaler. So what it is, it's a line doubler, so it just doubles lines, I guess. Yeah, it does not look right to me. It looks a little on the green side. All right, so let me pop in a regular game here. So we'll go back to Ghouls and Ghosts here, which we know was working correctly before. Yeah, that one looks a little off too. Yeah, I wonder if there's something with this particular Genesis that might be causing this. Let's see. And what you're not hearing on my microphone is I can hear a definite like coil whine going on inside of this thing. So my 32X has been noisy from the get-go. Yeah, so this is what it looks like with that's very green, right? So let's power this off again. You know, I wonder if it could be the power supply. Maybe that's what's causing this. I'm going to swap out, because we know that the the 9-volt goes to the Sega CD, so we're not going to swap that one. But I'm going to take, maybe I got the wrong power cable on it. So let's take the one that I was using in the Genesis and pop it in the 32X. And then take the one that was in the 32X. Same voltage, so I don't think I had any risk of damage here, but yeah, it's still off. Well, at least we know it's not the Sega 32X, and it could be, and it's odd because it really shouldn't be the cables either, because I changed out the cables. And it just froze up on me too. Let's try it again. I think I'm not going to push my luck anymore on this thing and just kind of leave it, because the 32X was not the mission here. All right, so this is what it looks like. Actually, that looks better, doesn't it? It still looks a little green to me, but I think it looks better. Yeah. This looks better. It does look a little on the green side. It could just be the composite cable here interacting. Yes, that definitely looks green. Okay, so let's take this now. Let's turn it off. We remember what this looked like. And then we're going to, let's go back now to just using the Genesis. So we'll go back to the regular Genesis here. And we'll just connect the composite cable directly to it. The tower of power here is very temperamental. And you can see, like, this is why people didn't like this, right? Because you had this mess, like all this stuff. You have this thing and that thing, and you're looking at, like, the PlayStation and the Saturn are coming out, and this is what you're dealing with, you know? This was the problem. All right, so Ghouls and Ghosts is back in there again. No coil wind this time. And I didn't break it here. There we go. All right, so let's take a look now. So somebody said that the analogs, yeah, so the noise in the power supply could definitely be doing it, no question. And you tell me how this looks and see if it looks any better. I think this looks better. So there's something, you know what it could be actually? So this was the funny thing. Inside the box on the 32X when you got it, they had all of these metal plates that you had to install inside your Genesis for exactly, I think, this issue. So I bet you, and I don't think the metal plates are in the box. I'll have to go back and double check. But I bet you this is why we're seeing this, that the metal plates are missing, and that might have given some shielding that prevented some of these issues with the color. So that could be what it is. Although the cable definitely was missing a pin on the one that he sent me, so I think that could be part of it too. So that's probably why. But I think this definitely looks better. I'd love to get your impressions. Now granted, we're streaming this. So Steffi says she thinks the metal plates were just for the Model 1 Genesis. That might be true. I can't remember. It was so long ago. I have to look up the manual for it. But I do think this looks better. But the good news is that the Sega CD works, so that's the important thing. And I'd love to hear from you all also on the quality of my stream, because I'm so upset with Comcast. I can't tell you. Like, my downstream speeds are fine, but the upstream is not reliable enough to always have a stream that doesn't kill me here. So some folks had some questions. So let me go back out and see. You know, that's a good point, Concrete, is maybe pull out a CRT and see if it's any better on that. Maybe we'll do that in a minute. I've got one in the back room that I could haul out. But my primary objective here was to get the Sega CD going, and the good news is the Sega CD is definitely functional. And somebody was asking about the Retro Tink. Yeah, let me zoom in on this so I can show you what I'm using here. This is kind of a neat box. It's one of these, you know, labors of love from a hobbyist that is really doing some cool stuff. And what it does is it takes composite, RGB, S-video, it does all of that stuff. And you just plug them in and you're good to go. And it's powered by USB, as you can see here. It's got HDMI output. It doesn't scale. It's not a scaler. So it's just basically a line doubler. And it takes in whatever you're putting in from your thing here and line doubles it and puts it up on something that your HD television can play back. And Metal Jesus Rocks did a great review of it because he took out some RGB cables on his Super Nintendo and it looked great, at least in the stream that he had with it or the video. And I'm just using composite now so you can see what that looks like. So I think maybe I'll go get the CRT out of the back and just see if it looks better. But it's definitely a cool little box, this thing. It's something I really want to play around with a bit more. I did get RGB cables for a PlayStation 2, so when I'm probably going to try that out one night and see how it looks on my TV upstairs. But this is a neat little thing because I have a scaler. The problem with the scaler is that it has a lot of delay, which I'm not getting on here right now. So if I go back and I lent my friend my PTZ camera, so I've got to do it the old-fashioned way here today. So as I'm playing here, you'll see it's not lagging all as much. Like it really feels like somewhat natural here. It's pretty good. The guys at Retro RGB did a whole really in-depth review of this thing, and there's just zero latency that it introduces. So really the latency you're going to have is your television that's really going to impact things. So this game was the third game that I bought. So the second game that I bought. The first game that I bought was the day I got the console in 1989, and I got Space Harrier 2, which I still have somewhere, and it came with Altered Beast. And then I had played Ghosts and Goblins on the NES, and I was never crazy about it because I was really frustrated that you couldn't shoot your spears there upward. And I saw a TV commercial for this game, and the guy was shooting his arrows up, and I said, oh my gosh, I could actually play this game now. So I went out and bought it when it came out. And this is the actual cartridge from 29 years ago, still working just fine. Oops. And a very hard game. Very hard game. So that's that. And he gave me, part of the deal on this one was this game called Power Monger. So let's pop that in real quick and see what that's all about. All right, so let's get that in there. And we'll get that Sega CD goodness going. I love that opening song. You know what it reminds me of? It's kind of crazy, but it reminds me of of the holiday season because I got this for the holidays back in '93 or whatever. So it was just kind of I was playing it a lot, so it's just kind of that song that reminds you of simpler times, right? Yeah, and I think we're having some lagging going on too. It looks like Comcast is doing its thing again. I'm gonna try to get in touch with somebody there and just see what they can do. All right. But I'm glad to say, really, the whole point of this was to make sure that the CD thing here is working, because when the Mega SG comes out, I wanted to be able to use that. So, and Stephanie's right. The original Sega CD had a different song, different BIOS on there. And Shigete Media says, I'm not that much older than him. Yeah, I turn 42 tomorrow. Tomorrow's my birthday. So when you hit your midlife crisis, you rebuy the things that you had when you were younger, I guess. All right, this looks like a game I'm not going to like. Whenever it starts off with, what is thy name? I'm right into the thy and the thou. Oh, it looks like he's got a game in progress here. Let's continue the conquest. This is called Power Monger, I think is what it's called. All right, we got some other 43-year-olds and 40-somethings in here. Yes, Erica, I was trying to keep it quiet. You never know. Yeah, it's funny. I've got 3 Facebook friends that also have my birthday as their birthday, so it's kind of fun. We always wish each other happy birthday. Jason Johnston is 41. Stephanie's turning 44 next month. 43, all right. You are my target demographic, everybody. Broken Mummy's 1,000. Well, I could see that, but you're very well preserved, so I have to give you a lot of credit for looking so great at your age. And Jonathan is 32. Yeah, the buffering is just because whenever I stream for more than 20 minutes, Comcast just throttles me here. And I figured out part of what the issue is. So as you all know, Eric is 17. I don't care. Eric, you don't seem like you're 17 to me. You're very worldly and knowledgeable. So I think you are an old soul. One of the things that I discovered when I was learning about this Comcast Gigabit Pro service, which I can't get, is that I have a fiber node at the end of my driveway, but I am not connected to that node. That node is doing something else because I am on an amplifier and my node is like all the way down the street. So I think I'm amplified through like 2 or 3 hops on my thing there. And I think that's part of why the streaming isn't always up to par there. Yeah, this game does not look like one I would ever want to play. I don't even know what the heck's going on here. All right, well, we'll try something else here. So let's turn this off real quick. I do wish they had a break on the CD here because it just keeps spinning when it's done. All right, so I'm going to show you some stuff with this. I acted older when I was 17 too. My friends used to call me Dad because I was not the most exciting guy to hang out with. But all right, this is normal, by the way. So yeah, so the Mega EverDrive here will work with 32X, but it also works with the Sega Master System. So I think I've got a bunch of games on this. Yeah, on this SD card here. So what's cool about this is that you can load up. Here, I'll pull up what it looks like here. You can load up Sega Master System games without having to get the adapter on there. So here, we'll load up the old Sega Afterburner. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think there's a setting on this to invoke the FM synthesis. Maybe not. I don't know if the Genesis had the FM synthesis built in or not. Oops. Let's try it again here. Afterburner. Select and start. Maybe it was on that menu that I just knocked myself out of here. And maybe it's not going to work. Let's see. Huh, this used to work. It could just be, you know what it could be? It could be the Tinker Plonk here not cooperating. Let's try a different game here. Let's try, these are all Sega Master System games, by the way. And I think some of these might be, these are all okay. So let's go and find like Enduro Racer. This was one of my favorites. All right, select and start. You know what I bet's happening here? I bet you it is working, but it's like going, oh, you know what? There we go. All right, now it's working. So I have this game upstairs, by the way. Eric, no, the EverDrive doesn't let you play the games, but it does actually, though, let you change the CD BIOS. So if you've got like a Japanese game or something, you can actually load up the BIOS for that. I used to play the you-know-what out of this game. So I had a Sega Master System, and I had one because a friend of mine had it, and I thought it was just like a superior system graphically to the Nintendo, which it kind of was. So I was really excited when the Genesis came out because, like, hey, here you go. You've got like this 16-bit thing. They know the arcade really well, so good stuff. Yeah, there we go. Boom. So that was, yeah, so you can play the Sega Master System games with the EverDrive without having to do anything else. And if I'm not mistaken, this cartridge also supports save states, too, on the Genesis side. So that's pretty cool stuff. Yeah, so I'll tell you what, this Tinker Plonk thing, it really, like, there's not a lot of noticeable lag here. And I'm actually running this through my, I'm running this via my NDI thing, so it's running out to that first, and then it's looping back to the monitor. And this monitor is not a great, gaming monitor. It just seems to work pretty well on my setup here. And that noise that you see on screen is it's a combination of things. It's the composite noise but my NDI thing that brings in this video over IP has some compression, so you're getting a little bit of that as well. So just not the ideal capture here, but it does seem to work pretty well. Now my understanding is when the Mega SG comes out, because it works with the FPGA and it's kind of just behaving like the original, this cartridge with the Sega Master System games will work without the adapter. They give you an adapter in the box so you can plug those Master System games right in directly, but it'll also work with this. Now Eric was wondering about whether or not you could get like a flash card for the CDs. No, but you can burn the games. So if you've got the ISO files, they'll burn and just boot up off the CDRs. So that's something you can do on there too. So that's that. I gotta remember how to do the save states on this because I have to look it up. I can show you that real quick. Mega EverDrive. It's like it's a key combination that you have to do on here. So I'll load up. Let's find a Genesis game to play here. Yeah, so I think maybe I should go before we close out. Go grab my CRT and see if it does any better with. All right, so select and start. So we'll try a little Space Harrier 2 here. So this was the first game that I bought. I loved my two favorite arcade games at the time that Genesis came out was Space Harrier 2 or Space Harrier and Afterburner. And what's funny, so I got the Genesis and I had my friend came with me because we were totally nuts about the Genesis coming out. So we went to Toys R Us to get it. We got the game, got the system, hooked it up, and that voice you just heard when it starts off, it's like, oh my God, I can't believe it! Like the voice is so clear because you'd always hear like the Sega Master System would have like people talking, but it was always like really scratchy, and to have like such a clear, voice at the beginning of it here, and then I'll kill him here. Like when he gets killed, it's the same thing. And it was get ready.
Get ready.
It was just so clear and crisp. It's like, oh my gosh, this is the future. So yeah, it was quite an uptick there. If they had the scaling built into it, it would have been a better experience. And what's funny here, all right, so this is a good opportunity here. So you saw this, right? So let's power this down for a second, and we'll hook the 32X back up because I want to show you what it looked like on the 32X. It was so much better. And again, the colors are going to be a bit off because we're having that issue here, but just bear with me here. We'll get that CRT hooked up in a second, but I thought this might be a fun little opportunity. I'm just glad this thing mostly works. And really, again, it was just the Sega CD was what I really wanted to get going here. So let's power this up real quick. All right. Looking Out wants to know if we can run Red Dead Redemption 2 on it. We cannot. However, I think somebody was doing something. It was on a message board somewhere, and somebody posted up an image of that as an N64 cartridge or something like that. All right, so let's go over my 32X here. Let me show you Space Harrier 32X. So now we're still using the EverDrive here, but we've got this working. And again, the colors are off, folks, and you can see like how much video noise my 32X introduces here. So yeah, we're gonna get the CRT out in a second. But doesn't this look so much better? Because you have the scaling going on, and the frame rate's faster. It looks like it's like it's so close to the arcade. It's just a much better experience. So the 32X really did. I mean, it was actually a very decent add-on. It just was not at the right time. They totally messed that up.
Get ready.
Yeah. Somebody says my Sega has a mushroom growing out of it. It does. This is the Mario adapter. So, all right. So let's power this off. I'm going to go find my CRT in the back room, and let's get this thing out of the way here real quick. Now, when I get the CRT, folks, I'm not going to be able to continue the capture because I don't think I have a splitter handy for my Tinker plunk here, so we'll just kind of do it the old-fashioned way. So we got that out of the way. I'm going to disconnect this, and I'm going to detach these cables here, and I'm going to go into my back room. I would show you my back room right now, but it's kind of a mess. So let me go run back there real quick and get the CRT. My mic will probably cut out here for a second because it's all concrete back here. And let's see where I put that CRT. Ah, here it is. Okay. All right, there we go. Oh yeah, we'll definitely be seeing some CRT roll on the camera here. We might even see the TV roll off the desk. That'd be kind of cool. Let's get that dust off of there. Yeah. It's funny, I feel like a jack of all trades with this stuff because I have like, for anything that I can possibly think of doing on the channel, I have something I can do with it. So let's turn off the light back here. All right. So now we're going to plug this in. I'm just grateful there's so many people interested in watching me do this stuff on Saturday nights. Yes, absolutely. This is the quintessential dorm room TV. I had a Hitachi that my sister has. It still works. It's probably 30 years old at this point, and it's still working. They don't make them like they used to. All right, so to continue our experiments here, I am going to hook up the other 32X, which I think I left upstairs, so I'm going to go get that real quick, because I just want to make sure that it's actually working better than my other one. So let me go get that real quick. All right, everybody, talk amongst yourselves. I will be right back with my other 32X. Stand by. And I got to take the dog out, so hang on a second. All right, sorry everybody, the dog had to go out too when I went up there. So hope you all behaved yourselves while I was gone. All right, so let's got the other 30. It's funny, the one I got from the guy is less beat up than the one I had, so that is good. The other 32X obviously had a lot of college moves and all that good stuff. All right, so now we're going to plug in power. We're going to attach the composite video cable here, and the other composite cable here. And next we're going to connect those up to the Orion TV. And do that one there. Okay. Let's see. I'll try to get to some of your questions in a second too. All right, so let's turn on the TV. All right, no smoke yet. I had this vision while I was walking the dog that like downstairs the TV was on fire and you were all watching my house burn down. So thankfully that didn't happen. Now here's the funny thing. This Orion TV is actually the same brand as the LED set or the flat screen I have for monitoring my stuff. So my remote here works with it, so I can just do that. Now we're on the aux input. So now let's see how the color looks on here. Well, it looks a lot cleaner on the CRT. Okay, so it looks a little green to you, but it actually looks, this is fine. So whoever, oh, that looks so much better. Oh my goodness. So I've never had a 32X that actually looks this clean. So let me turn the light off so you can get it better. This looks really good. Yeah, this is exactly how it's supposed to look. Yeah, so it looks like the Tinker Plunk probably did not like all the stuff that was getting introduced to this. This looks very good. And this is so much better than my other 32X. So this actually turned out to be a pretty good buy for me because I needed to get the Sega CD for when that Mega SG comes out. And now I've got a better 32X than what I had before. And I don't have to take my prized possession off the shelf there, and I can continue to let this thing run with stuff. So this is good. All right. Cool. Well, I am quite pleased. This was a good eBay pickup. And I think if you are in the market for that Mega SG, I would suggest trying to get your Sega CD now before everybody starts looking for them in April, because that's when that thing comes out. And I can guarantee you everybody's going to want to get a Sega CD if they get their Mega SG, because that Mega SG is going to slide right into the rest of it here. So that's what's going on there. So I'm going to stick around for a few more minutes, folks, and answer some questions. So let's scroll back up the list here. All right, so first of all, it's amazing when you think about it, like this crappy television, which I mean probably sold for like $100 when it was new, looks so much better than all this HD 4K stuff I have here. No matter what you do, it's just amazing how good this stuff really worked back then, as bad as it was. All right. Let me scroll way back here and see if I can find some stuff. Okay. Ben Casa just got a Model 2 Genesis. So he's got the RGB S card. Yeah, I got to get RGB cables next. I know this is going to become one of these rabbit hole things. The funny thing is, I don't even play that many games anymore. I just spend more time trying to get them to work. That's been my thing. So that's what I've been doing there. Yeah, so I have a room. Eric was talking about my back room. I think I gave a tour of it a while back. So behind here, let me see if I can get my NDI camera going on the phone here. It'll work as long as I have Wi-Fi working here. So I think it's camera 7 when this comes up. Let me turn on high version here. Oops. So if you watched any of my really old stuff, you know that I have been in my basement, but I redid the basement about 2 years ago. I can't believe it's been 2 years already. I redid the basement about 2 years ago. Let's find my phone. Here it is. And it's, it's a room. It's a freaking mess right now. Let me pull on camera 7 here. So this is the mess that I live in here. But what I can do here is just show you my back room. So they built I didn't build this house, I moved into it. But this is underneath the front porch. It's this big concrete bunker. I'm going to see how long I can go here before we lose the signal. But it just goes on and on and on back here. And it's completely protected from the elements, if you will, because sometimes I get some water over here. I got to get my gutters fixed. But it is like a concrete bunker. So when we get the big hurricane or something, I'm just going to plot myself in that bunker there and go with it. But I kind of use it as a storage room. Believe it or not, I don't actually hang on to a lot of the things that I review here. So I saw some folks talking about, like, where do you get the money for all this stuff? And a lot of what I buy, I resell pretty quickly after I review it, and that's usually how it goes. But that's also why I look at inexpensive stuff, because I couldn't afford to look at all the expensive brand new computers because it wouldn't work. So it's a lot easier to look at a $200 computer that not a lot of people are reviewing, see what kind of value you can extract from a $200 computer, and then when I'm done reviewing it, sell it. And I don't sell it for exactly the same price that I bought it for, so I sell it for less. But I'm able to make it back with YouTube ad revenue and some of the other revenue sources from the channel. So that's what goes on there. Let's see. Yep, so Shigade says, Orion, yep, this is, if you want cheap, you go Orion, and it works. Let's see. Rockstar misses his Hitachi CRTV with wood grain sides. My parents had a Zenith TV in our family room. And back when I grew up, like, you had one television that was good. So we had the color TV downstairs, and then we had a black and white one in the kitchen. And then I remember my parents got me a black and white TV for my room because I used to play the Atari a lot. So I had that upstairs, but that was it. People are asking if I curse. I sometimes will utter those words, but not on YouTube because it costs me money. So I keep myself self-censored there. But it's also a family-friendly channel. I want people to... I don't think you have to swear to make your point all the time. It's actually sometimes challenging to make a point without swearing sometimes, I think. So that's part of what I like to do. So Zam is saying that his CRT caught fire while he was playing with his Sega Dreamcast. You all remember that the Apple IIgs there did not catch fire, but it blew one of its capacitors, and we had a lot of smoke. So that was not fun. But I did get a new power supply for it, and I've got a couple more like live stream things we can do. One of the things that I'm going to be doing is getting the FPGA-based Mister going. Smoke Monster's been really helpful in getting me directed to buying the right stuff, so I have all the parts. So I figured I would probably do a live stream later, maybe this next week. I'm not sure exactly when I'll do it. It might be like a pop-on thing like I'm doing now as I start to figure it out. So we'll do that. I wanted to get this thing tested because it's been sitting in the box for a week, and if there was a problem, I wanted to, call the guy and tell him I'm not happy. But I'm actually very happy. This has been great. Even Calibri here might look better than it did before. I can't believe how clean the CRT is with composite. It's crazy. Looks great. Look at this. It's like clean as can be. So that's that. I need a dog cam. Yes, I'd be kind of neat to see what my dog. It's funny with my dog is I have a Siberian Husky that I rescued. I rescued her 4 years ago, about 2 weeks after I lost my other dog, after she passed away. And that dog doesn't play with toys, doesn't chew up anything, just wants to go for walks. That's her thing. So I have to walk her about 2 or 3 times a day. This game was just I never quite figured out exactly what you're supposed to do in it, but it really kind of showed the potential of the 32X because the 32X I think had a 32,000 color palette, which was a lot more than obviously the Genesis could do, which I think was like 16 maybe 32 if they could get away with it. But just a lot of unmet potential with this, partly because the management just totally screwed it up. But look how good that looks. And this is composite. I mean, it looks so much better than you just saw hooked up through all this line doubling stuff. Again, I got to get those RGB cables. I think that'll make a difference there. So that's pretty cool. Very neat. All right, let's take some more questions here. Some fond memories of Sewer Shark from Ben and Jason. You know what's funny was I think I had a CD-ROM on my computer before I got the Sega CD. So the video never impressed me, but I could see, like, for people that had never experimented with that stuff before, the Sega CD was the least cost entry for CD-ROMs, because they had, at the time, they had the CDI. I remember going to New York City on a school trip, and we went to FAO Schwartz, and they had this whole section of, like, all the new super expensive stuff. So they had, of course, the Neo Geo for $800, and they had the CDI, and we were like, wow, it's amazing. And then the Sega didn't look as good as that, but it was the same stuff. It just had a little bit grainier presentation. But yeah, I think I was really into Sonic CD. I think I played a lot of that. And what actually got me to get the Sega CD was that my local game rental store was starting to carry the Sega CD games. So that was that. Uncle Lou bought his first Genesis when he was 16. He went in halves with his friend Jim. And his folks didn't want or allow it in the house, so it stayed in his apartment. That's a good deal. That's funny. Yeah, I had some friends that were not allowed to get video game consoles, so they would come to my house to play, which is fine, because it was always great to have friends over to play that stuff. Yeah, the music, Jason Johnson says the music in Sonic CD was amazing. It really was. Because, too, when you think about, like, when you're listening to the regular Sega CD music, to suddenly have, like, full Red Book audio was pretty crazy. Yeah, Ben Costa wishes they would remaster more of the FMV games from Sega CD. I agree. I think Night Trap really is a good example of that. And it looks great on the Switch. It really does. I have it upstairs. I would show it to you if it wasn't, like, too much to get. Or I got too much, I was about to say the S word, too much stuff on my desk right now. But yeah, I definitely got to check that out. Bruno, we met at CES 4 years ago. He was covering it. Yep, I think I do remember meeting you there. I think we were buying some meal at the back of. Yes, Bruno, I do remember you. I was I think I was online at McDonald's. Actually, it was a Chinese place. I remembered that because you were the first person to ever recognize me from the channel, like, out in the world. So I do remember meeting you there. So it's great that you're still following me, and I hope that you'll still be going to CES this year. I'm going to be doing, like, 3 days at CES this year. I've gotten more efficient about it, and I'm learning that it's just not worth trying to cover everything. So I'm going to do 2 of these, like, consolidated events, PepCom and Showstoppers, where they've got most of the major exhibitors there in, like, one room, and you can just run through and meet everybody. So I'm going to do those 2 shows, and then we're going to go walk the Sands Convention Center that has all the startups. So we're going to do a day doing that, and then the other 2 days looking at some of the Showstopper events. So, because what happened last time, I just was like, we did Showstopper or PepCom. I got back to my room at like 10 or 11 p.m. And that was 10 or 11 p.m. Pacific time. I'm on the East Coast, so I was like into 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. And then I uploaded the first dispatch that night, so I was running on like fumes the next day. So I'm going to try to be a little bit more efficient for my own sanity too. So, Fluckcom had a Genesis, came with Golden Axe instead of Altered Beast. That's interesting. So Golden Axe, when that came out, because I think they were using a higher memory cartridge, and that one I think was selling for like $59, $60 back when it came out. Now every game is $59, but this was almost 30 years ago that it was selling for that much. But it was a really good close arcade port. There's still some discussion I see about how I buy all this stuff. Yeah, so a lot of so I'll give you a couple of examples of how things get here. I have basically 3 or 4 different ways things get here. I get a lot of things that are loaned to the channel. So all the Lenovo laptops that I look at, they're great. They have a department there that does nothing but send out review loaners to the media. So they send me a lot of that stuff. And what's great is that because I'm so well search optimized that no matter what it is, it will do well. So that's why you see so much Lenovo stuff on here, because they just have so many review loaners that they send out. A lot of the other manufacturers just don't have them, or I'm just not on their radar screen enough to get stuff to me, so I have to continually ping them to see what they have available. So that's one way. So those come in on loan. I review them and send them back. I got 2 I got to send out next week. Some stuff I buy and then resell, and that was kind of like my big business decision of the channel, because when I was starting out, I was getting a lot of this junk from China that was not getting any traffic, but all the name brand stuff got traffic. So I started buying stuff, and I was like, you know what, why don't I just buy this stuff and then resell it after I'm done with it? And that worked. And not only did it work from the standpoint that I was not losing that much money doing it, I was making more back on the YouTube revenue from that to basically, if you want to call it a profit, I was profiting from that transaction. So I'd take a loss on the sale of the item, but because I have the affiliate links on the item and because I was getting YouTube revenue, I was able to make it back, and it worked out really well. The big thing that I think really keeps me going is the Amazon Vine program. I got into it just completely on a whim about 10 years ago. I don't know how I got into it. Nobody on the Vine program knows how they got into it, but what that is that Amazon has a program where manufacturers send things into Amazon, and then Amazon sends them out to reviewers that they have picked, and there's some algorithmic matching to figure out which reviewer is best for what kind of item. So we get a lot of stuff in through that. And then some companies just send stuff in. You know, like some things just get here from a company, and sometimes they want it back, sometimes they don't. Generally, what I do with the stuff that they don't want back is if we can't find a use for it on the channel here, I will do a giveaway to the Patreon members supporters of the channel. So we do like a cost of shipping giveaway. So it's like $20 to cover freight or whatever, and it's yours. So we've been doing some of that with the Patreon supporters. Let's take a look here. A few other questions. Yeah, Calibri is kind of like Echo the Dolphin. It is. It's kind of like Echo the Dolphin in the air. I think I missed a whole bunch of questions here. Okay, so Fluckham wants to know if I was a Nintendo or Sega kid. So I was initially a Nintendo kid, and then I became a Sega kid. So I never had the Super Nintendo growing up. I have one now, and I have the Super NT also. Yeah, I was more of a Sega kid. Partly because I always liked the underdog. I felt like Sega was like, it was better in many ways versus the NES as far as, you know, back when we were kids, it was all graphics. The gameplay was not as important, believe it or not. The Genesis, I think, did so well because the graphics were better. That was a big deal back then. Scott, I don't believe I got the email. I generally don't do private calls with folks because I don't provide like support or anything. But if you want to email me again, I'll take a look and see what I can help you with. Let's see. I just accidentally hit the back button on my thing here, so I'm totally. Oh my gosh, I got questions flying up here. Okay. Yeah, I'm going to wait for those RGB cables to come down in price. $100 for a cable, probably a little too much for me right now, so I'm going to just wait and see what else comes out there for cables. And I think they'll start coming back down again. So Bullet Smoke wants to know, is the YouTube revenue worth it? It is worth it because it provides, you know, my revenue generally is split up a couple different ways. It's YouTube revenue, affiliate marketing, which is the links that I put on all the reviews that I do. So even things I don't like, I still link with an affiliate link because if somebody clicks over to Amazon and buys something, I get a commission from that sale. So it does work. In fact, YouTube's revenue has been actually doing better on a per view basis for me than it's been in the last 2 or 3 years. In fact, this year, my views are about the same from one year to the next. I'm creeping up a little bit each year, but I do just about 1 million, 2 views a month. I've been at that level for 4 years now. The end of 2014 was when I had my first 1 million view month, and I generally have stayed around that point since then. But the revenue was constantly going down, even though the views were slightly ticking up. And this year has been probably the first year that revenue is close to where it was in 2014. So that's been really good. So it's nice because between the affiliate revenue and the YouTube revenue, it provides a nice baseline, so I'm not out chasing sponsors all the time. So I've got a decent amount of revenue to support, you know, the stuff that I do here and to help me earn the living. And then I do have some of the ongoing sponsorship stuff. So I have Plex every month. That helps. There's now I'm on Facebook, so there's a program I'm on Facebook now is bringing in some revenue that way too. So there's I've got a lot of revenue in different places. And what's funny though is I don't consider, it's funny, it's not like it used to be where we were in this really scarce environment. My wife's going to start running the dishwasher, so you might hear some water moving through the pipes upstairs. It's not like it used to be in that, if I was on ABC, then NBC was my evil competitor. The reality is that the bigger channels actually help me, because if you're watching a review of the Sega 32X on some huge channel, and then my video pops up as the next suggested video to watch, then I'll get traffic from that as well. So what's nice about YouTube is that generally, yes, you have competitors who might be doing the same thing you're doing. Maybe you're competing for sponsors, perhaps in one way or another, but generally a high tide raises all boats there. So thank you, Rockstar, for the super chat money. That does help as well. That's another component. There's just many different components there. And what's nice is that where I'm at now is that I used to have one revenue source, which was, two, YouTube revenue and affiliate marketing. Now it's YouTube revenue, affiliate marketing, it's Patreon support, it's the super chat, YouTube membership program, Facebook revenue. That one's going to be interesting because I'm in a bonus program right now. That'll end at some point, so we'll see where it goes out from there. We've got sponsorship revenue, and then I'm doing some consulting work on the side in some other related areas. So, all these little things just all contribute. And I really, I do the sponsored content. I'm actually working on a project now with Kensington, which is not going to appear on the channel. But I'm doing explanatory videos on all their accessory products for their different platforms, and that's been great. So that kind of stuff has been really, really good too. So it's good. I mean, it's nice is that I think I started this full time at the right time. I've got time to do all the things that I want to do, and it's been good. So let's see. Yeah, I'm going to wait for the HD Retrovision to restock. I guess they were having some issues there. Hey, Tipster is in here today. Excellent. Tipster's been growing quite a bit. He remembers when I was 14,000 subs, and I remember when he was 5,000. So we're both growing. You got to just, it's a grind. You got to keep cranking out the videos. The good thing is I like it. It's funny. I was talking to a friend of mine. I think I may have talked about this on some live streams before, but I'm about to embark on a few experiments to try to make this business more than just me. It's kind of an artisanal thing in that I have to make everything I sell, essentially, make the videos. I often think about the donut guy on Dunkin' Donuts, the old commercials. It was like, time to make the donuts. So I got a friend who, she's interested in trying to get into this field. So I'm going to be helping her get started. And you might see her a little bit as things go on with her. And she was, it was funny because she said to me, she goes, she's been doing this a long time, do you ever not feel motivated? And I don't. Every day, even the weekend, I'm like, I want to do something with this, whether it's like tonight, everybody was in bed, I was like, you know what? I want to go downstairs, I want to take that thing out of the box and hook it up, and I'm going to live stream it and boot it up all the stuff and doing it, and it's been really cool. So it's a really fun thing, and and Tipster can kind of relate to this because I see him, he's doing a full-time job during the day, and he's working hard all night, and so for me, I would work all day. I'm also involved in my community. I'm on my board of education, so when I get into the winter time, we start working on the budgets. So I'm out at night, sometimes from till 10 or 11 after work. But I was just cranking out videos when I get home from work, and what happened though was that I was exhausted throughout the entire week, and I had finally got to the point where I was like, you know what, I'm going to make less money, but I'll be happier, and it was the right time, so I was able to make it work. So it's one of those things where I think people get really discouraged because it takes them so long to get to X number of subscribers or X number of views. And the way that I approached it was as a commodity, which means that I focused less so on gaining subscribers and more so on getting videos in front of people. And that's why the branded, looking at the name brand products made a big difference, because people were searching for the name brand products. If my review popped up there was a chance to get a subscriber from that. And that's how it kind of came about. All right. Let's see what we got. Arthur Collector was talking about the 3DO. And yeah, I had a 3DO. I bought mine. So when that came out, it was as much as the Neo Geo was, but the games were less expensive because they were on CD versus those huge cartridges. So I think it was like $800 when it came out. And a friend of mine had a friend that worked at the software, etc. store or whatever, and he had one. So we went over to his house, and I was just completely blown away by it. The streaming video quality was better than my computer. It was just like, oh my gosh. Then it had the 3D acceleration. It was great. So when the price got down to $399 when I was in college, I had a credit card, so I bought it, and then worked the whole year to pay it off. It was great. It was a really cool thing. So thank you, Anthony, for your super chat. Another 42-year-older. Thank you. Yeah, I'll be 41 until tomorrow. Thank you for your contribution. Much appreciated. So yeah, that was cool. Hero says the TurboGrafx CD was the first commercial CD add-on, and he thinks that 3DO might have beaten the Sega CD to market, if he's not mistaken. It might be the case. I'm eager to actually get into that because the Mister actually has a very good TurboGrafx recreation in FPGA. Now, I do have a TurboGrafx upstairs, and there is an add-on now that actually does CD games and regular ROMs with an SD card. I've been following some of this on some of the channels that I watch, and I'm like, I should get one of those. And I never had the TurboGrafx when it came out, so I remembered it was funny because the TurboGrafx came out right around the same time the Genesis did, and Sega just outmarketed them. They really got clobbered. And it's a shame, too, because it was actually a pretty cool system. Angela wants to know if the Sega should make their own micro consoles. Yeah, I think they should make their own micro console, given how bad AT Games is. Sega's not the company it used to be. You know, it's owned by it's a different owner. It's become they make games still, but they're also a license holder. And I think there's a big part of their business is licensing their name out. If you look at other companies like Polaroid and Kodak. Whenever you see a Kodak camera, it's not Kodak, it's a licensee using their name as it is with Polaroid, so Sega does a lot of that too. That's why you see Sega games in so many different places. So yeah, I'm of the opinion that they need to try to reclaim the brand a little bit. AT Games really, I think, is doing the licensors a disservice, and I think people need to start communicating to the license holders like, hey, these guys are ruining your brand. You walk into Walmart and there's Pac-Man on the screen, on the box, and you buy it and it's like a crappy Pac-Man. It's not good. Ben Costin says his grandmother would take him to Toys R Us every year for his birthday to get a new NES game. When he was turning 12, I showed her the Genesis and the SNES and told her I'm saving up for one of them. She said if I could wait a week, she'll get me one, and she got the Genesis with Sonic Bundle. So Grandma chose. That's interesting. His grandmother chose. That's cool. Yeah, I remember getting a video game back then was a big deal because they were so expensive. I mean, now it's like there's so many, you can't even keep up with it. The games are like $2 sometimes on Steam. I have a Steam library that I haven't played any of these things. I said to stop buying games. I never played them. I just bought them just because they were cheap, and that was it. Broken Mummy wants to know, where did he go? Oh, I missed his question. Where did it go? I'll do Broken Mummy. Okay, do I use the Newton much? So I've got a Newton. Actually, I have 3 Newtons. I have 2 more upstairs and an E-Mate. I used it a lot back when it came out. I thought that was going to be the future. And unfortunately, it never took off. The Palm Pilot killed it. But you know what's funny about the Newton is that the ARM chip in it, if I'm not mistaken, Apple developed to some degree the ARM processor that was running in the Newton. When they sold off their stake in ARM, it was one of the things that saved Apple. And of course, all the iPhones now are running and the iPads are running with the ARM chips also. But the Newton, I'm going to do a video on the Newton at some point because it really was ahead of its time. I try to do those retro reviews once a year, so maybe we'll try to get to that if I get caught up on some other stuff. I've been meaning to do that for a while. What was really cool about the Newton is that you could put a modem. So this is before Wi-Fi and internet even that you could get on it. But you could put a modem inside of it. They had a card slot, so you could slide a modem in. And you could send faxes. And what was cool about it was that you could write out something and then select the name and say, like you could say fax to the name, and it would have this intelligence to know that you meant to fax this to to that person you had, and they would pull up their fax number, you would put a cover sheet together, you hit a button, it would pick up the modem and dial and send that fax out to that person. It was really slick. You didn't have to know the number if they were in your book. It did so many things that we take for granted now that was doing it for the first time. That's one of the cool things about being 42, is that I think my generation is one of the more unique ones in that we grew up with this technology, but it was all new, right? So, you know, like the Segas and the Apple computers and the Commodores, like all this stuff was new. So we remembered the before and the after, and that's why I'm so passionate about what I do, is because I just love this stuff, because like I remembered when it didn't exist, and it's kind of funny to have that memory and yet have having grown up with technology too. It's kind of a unique thing. Thank you, Vince, for your contribution. Much appreciated. I greatly appreciate all the super chats. Brian Parker wants to know, how do you avoid getting sick after CES? You know, I was good. I think got sick one of the years. The key is to keep washing your hands. That is the key. Wash your hands before you eat. That's a big one, because you can easily get sick quickly from that. Good hand washing is critical. I have a friend that's a infectious disease doctor. I got the rundown. And it's not just like this and leaving. It's like getting the fingernail scrubs, the whole process. You got to do that. Zam, thank you for your contribution. Looking for a new TV. What's the difference between QLED and LED? He's mainly looking at the Samsung. So the QLED stands for, I think, quantum dot. And that's Samsung's LED technology. And one of the things that I've liked about the Samsung TVs, I have one over there. I don't know if it's a quantum dot one or not, but I do have a quantum dot monitor on my other desk, is that the viewing angles are better side to side versus some of the other non-IPS displays that are out there. And the other thing that's nice about it is that you don't have as much backlight bleed like you get with the IPS displays. So I had a LG IPS display before I bought my OLED, and I was so disappointed with the backlight bleed on it. It drove me crazy because I had gone from a plasma. So the QLEDs are good. But I'll tell you what, like if you're in the market for a TV, that OLED's amazing. The black levels on it. I mean, I know the QLEDs are getting close, but go to the store, like go to Best Buy or whatever store you got, and just go and look and just see the two of them together just to get a better sense of it. But I am like beyond happy with my OLED. I just love it. And it's the best TV I ever owned, no question. And I have a nicer TV than my dad does now, which is really great because it drives him crazy. He's gonna probably get something crazy to try to beat me. Let's see. I'll go through a few more questions here. So Pancake Wizard says the Model 2 Genesis, the HD Retrovision component cables are legit. You also need to get the Genesis to 32X cable. So I'm going to look into that just because, you know, it'd be good to try to, because it's funny, like how, we'll boot it up here again, like how much better it looked. My TV is not turning on anymore. It's totally dead. Maybe I turn the power off? That's funny. That's funny. It's like this TV, there's something about like whenever I have these things out in the live stream that they just die and explode after that. Let's see. Maybe it's on it. It just didn't make the noise. I don't know. That's funny. So Aaron Johnson wants to know, my question is, would you do a review of the TiVo Bolt box because it's a client that could use Plex for voice assistant stuff? You know, I could. I just don't. Here's the problem with the TiVo for me is that to review it is going to be a nightmare because I have to call Comcast and get my cable card switched over to it, which might prove to be problematic. And one thing I don't like about TiVo is the monthly cost for just the guide is really expensive. And that was kind of a bit of a turnoff for me also. I think this TV just died. That's funny. It was just perfectly fine, and now it's back. Let's see. Okay, there we go. That would have stunk if this TV broke. But anyway, I'm going to look into those Retrovision cables because you look at this and it's just like, it's so good. And it's this composite. And this is what's so funny is that, you know, you look at the emulation and everything, and you remembered it being different on these TVs, and it just looks like it's funny because this is like a 14-inch TV, but it's just super clean, even with composite. Partly because it's such it's just a lousy TV, but it looks nice and crisp on it. And that's how I remembered some of these games working, was that you just had a nice crisp picture, and then when you went to like the S-video cables, it was a whole different world. The RF cables, so I think initially I was hooking my consoles up with RF, and then I bought the composite cables, and that made a big difference on the Sega. So I think my original TV did not have composite inputs, it just had the RF, that was it. But it's just so clean looking, so good stuff. Have you ever tried Project Stream from Google? I haven't. I don't recall what that is, so you'll have to remind me. This is... NLGito was asking me that. Bullet Smoke says, at least he doesn't beg for sponsorships. See, I don't generally, I try not to spend a lot of time hunting down sponsorships. Part of the problem is I'm very nervous about, one of the things I'm really nervous about is becoming an infomercial. And I think here's the thing, when I put sponsored content in front of you, there's a cost. We're trading, I'm getting paid, and I'm getting paid to take some of your attention away, or take some of your attention. And I think you have to be careful how you do that. And the other thing I've been very, eager not to do is just have a bunch of, call something a review for money. I'm not comfortable with that. So a lot of, I talked about this on the wrap-up. You can do a search on my snippets channel for this. I did a video on marketing versus PR. And it's been something that's been bugging me for a while, because you get these PR people, these marketing people to contact you. They just want you to do a review like you normally would, or do some cute creative thing around using this product, and it's just like, it's not me. So I'd rather not lose brand value, and build up my audience and do it the right way. What I like to do, the kind of sponsored content I like to do, is like what I've done for Synology and for Plex, where we dig into a feature and we actually look at how the product works and try to answer questions. That stuff is a lot more interesting to me. Eric Bazinga wants to know, would I be interested in doing reviews on disk repair machines? I have never really looked into that, but that might be kind of fun. I've got some scratched up discs in the back. I should look into that. Eric, email me some things so I don't forget. That might be kind of fun. So Tipster was just talking about the motivation thing I talked about a few minutes ago, and he's had his demotivating days, especially when the day job gets him in a bad mood. Yeah, it's hard because you got to come back here and be energetic, and that's the one thing. Like the shooting of the videos takes a lot of energy to do right, because I sit and I don't get up until I'm done, so I don't I'll just finish it tomorrow. No, when I'm shooting a video, it's got to be done, because if I get up and have a different outfit on, it's going to look disconcerting. So it's or discombobulating or whatever. I'm getting tired. My words are not coming out anymore. So Eric was saying he's got a movie collection of 1,000+ titles, and some of them are scratched pretty bad. So he wants to get them to rip into his Plex server. Yes, I should look into it. Hopefully they're not all that expensive. Pancake Wizard found me for my Super NT review, which I bought, by the way. Tipster still has his 3D. Oh yeah, mine's upstairs. In fact, that was the first thing I hooked up to my Tinker Plunk thing here. Retro Tink, I'm sorry, I keep calling it the wrong thing. Up to my Retro Tink. I got the Tinker Plunk stuff for my FPGA experiment I'll be doing later. It didn't look so great on here, primarily because I guess the 3DO did some wacky interlacing or something like that. So that was something that happened there. Brian Parker, thank you for your contribution. Brian's a good friend of mine. He doesn't live far from me, so maybe he'll come over and play video games one of these days. He wants to know if I ever thought about doing a Discord channel. I should do that. Everybody's doing that. I need to look into that. Maybe you can help me with that. Mister is not treating me well or good or bad yet. I haven't started it yet. I wanted to spend enough time with it because what I wanted to do was see. I got all the parts in finally, and I wanted to see how it would work without all the extra parts first, and then see what you can do just by buying the board, and then kind of going from there. So I have the I/O board, I've got the SD-RAM board, and I have the main unit that you need to actually get all this stuff going. Let's see, what else we got here? I wish YouTube would make this chat easier to follow. What happens is it jumps to the bottom, and then it's like completely, I miss everything. Let's see. All right, I'm going to miss a bunch of questions here, guys. I'm sorry. Wow. So Michael was talking about Phantasy Star 4 on his Genesis. Michael Henninger, $96. I believe it. I got, one year I got Phantasy Star 1 for my Master System, and that was $75, I think back in like 88, 87, 88. It's a great game. And here's the kicker. I had it with the manual in the box. I sold it probably 10 years ago, 15 years ago, for 100 and something. It's probably worth more than that now with all that stuff complete in box. Let's see. Scrolling through the rest of this thing here. Yeah, the Dyson. Sam is bringing up the Dyson ad. So we talked about that on the channel. That was from the sponsorship standpoint. It's funny because I'm answering and then the chat comes later. It's like the whole delay thing here. But we were talking a minute ago about sponsorships, and that Dyson thing was a great example where, you know, you could see everybody did their own type of video, but they all had to cover the same things. You know, we want you to cover this, this, and this. And it was funny to see, though, how differently some of these channels disclosed the relationship. You know, some said we partnered with, or they asked us to look at, you know, but they all were covering the same things, and all the videos launched at the exact same time. Here's the thing. I think that, I believe this wholeheartedly, that I think the influencer marketing stuff is going to become a dying marketing platform. At least as it's been, like the Dyson thing being a great example of that, because consumers are a lot savvier than I think than these marketers give them credit for, and I think the channels that are trying to effectively show the difference between paid and unpaid content ultimately are going to do better, because it's about building trust. And you know, I think the way I've structured the business here is that I don't need that to survive, and that's helped me be able to be a lot pickier about what I do, because I really don't want to like take a sponsorship for something that I don't think is a good product, you know, or I want to be able to say, hey, this is a great thing, you know. It's I don't want to promote bad stuff. Bullet Smoke says the day job kills everything. When he gets home, his brain just checks out. Yeah, it's tough. You know, what's funny is that what I basically, and my wife and I were talking about this the other day, what I basically did is I monetized my hobby, is really what it came down to. Because when I would get home from work, I would unwind by tinkering with stuff, which is what I do on the channel now. It's what I do. And so I kind of turned that after work activity into this YouTube channel. I figured if I'm going to do this anyhow, I may as well turn a camera on and talk. And that's how it came about. Let's see. So a lot of people want me to do the Discord server, so I will try to figure that out. All right, Pancake Wizard is heading out. Ask Steve who wants me to do Slack instead of Discord. I don't know what I'm going to do. I'll figure it out. The Facebook group has been like the most successful community thing I've launched. That one's doing really well. I agree with Ben. They need to do an HD remake of the Phantasy Star series. I'm thinking about, when the price comes down on it, maybe picking up the Genesis collection for my Switch. I love the Switch. I am just... I'm constantly playing games on the Switch. The Switch is like the perfect game system for a now soon-to-be 42-year-old dad. Once we hit midnight here, we'll be into my birthday. Because one of the neat things about the Switch is that you can play it portable mode, so you don't have to like be away from everybody. You can play your Switch while everybody else is kicking around. A couple more questions here before I call it a night. Shigate wants to know if I did a review of the RetroTink 2X. I haven't yet, partly because I want to get some more cables and just kind of show what it's capable of. So I think what I might do is try to find a good solution for the RGB cables on the 32X tower of power here, and get all that going. I'm actually really pleased with this eBay purchase now, because like I got more out of this than I expected. I was just trying to get the Sega CD, but I've got a better 32X than I had, and a great working Gen 2 console here, so that's been pretty good. And Irving Pagan is talking about watching on TV when he's doing live streams. There's no way to chat. That's true, you can't chat on the TV platforms. You can just watch. So I think that's one of the valuable things about the streaming, is that you can have this interaction, you know, in real time there. So good stuff. All right, folks, I am going to call it a night. Get ready for my my big birthday celebration. I'm doing nothing tomorrow. Maybe I'll pop on and tinker with more stuff. Actually, you know what I'm going to probably do is try to clean up this mess in this room. It's like a total disaster. So I appreciate all of you who tuned in. 150, I think, was our peak. Actually 170 came in around 10:16 p.m. my time. So I really appreciate everybody tuning in. I'm glad that Comcast let me stream today. So thank you to them. Maybe I'll pay my bill this month. And if you all want to send me an email, it's Lon@Lon.TV. So if you have things you want to put in front of me, I can take a look at them there. I read everything. I don't always, my email is like a constant, my email is like worse than the chat thing here. It just flies by. So I'll do my best to get in touch with folks. Happy birthday from the old Atari gamer. Thank you. Thank you. Happy birthday from Concrete Codpiece and Bullet Smoke. Thank you, Mr. H. His birthday was last Saturday. November is a good month to be born in, I think. So, yeah, 11/11, everybody, is my birthday. So they often say 11/11, make a wish. So it's good stuff. All right, folks, I am going to call it a night. I got my new Sega Genesis here, new to me. I'm excited about that, and we are ready to go for when that new Analog Genesis console comes out in April. We have the Sega CD now, so we're good to go. So we'll put this in a safe place and hang on to it there. Although if I get those RGB cables in, maybe we'll do something with the RetroTink here. So if any of you know which whatever cables I need to get, email me where I should get them so we can play around with that a bit as well. All right, everybody, I'm going to sign off for the evening. Thank you all for joining me on this Saturday night, and I'm glad I could spend a little bit of time with you all. It's kind of fun to hang out and do geeky things on a Saturday night, because that's where I like to be on a Saturday night, is right here in my basement playing with stuff. I will talk to you all soon, and have a good night. And I'm going to hit the stop button right here, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.